John Woolman, born October 19, 1720. John Woolman's lifespan happened just before the waves of the American Revolution. He was an American merchant, a Quaker preacher, a tailor, and one of the earliest abolitionists of his time. In fact, in Woolman's journal, he did not speak of any fellow abolitionists that were on the same path. So it is believed that Woolman was his own support system in the beginning stages. He wrote of his own personal encounters with slave owners and such in his journal. John practiced these things in the colonial ages when slavery was practiced. John Woolman, at the age of 21, went to work for a shopkeeper, which had just purchased Scottish slaves. One of the Scottish slaves passed away in the room that John Woolman later stayed in. Woolman started getting eerie vibes from that room, intensifying his emotions about the matter. Woolman would travel with his fellow Quakers to different colonies, and he would discover the treatments of slaves, bringing his mind to a broader view of the better understanding. Woolman traveled through Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, and North Carolina, as these were only some of the states that he commuted to spread the education of slaves and advocated for them. One day, an older gentleman came and requested that Woolman help him write his will. Woolman agreed, and they proceeded. After Woolman asked the older gentleman what he wanted to do with the enslaved, the older man replied that he wanted to pass them down to the next generation, which consisted of the slave's freedom being held for eternity. After that answer, Woolman backed out of the writing of the will and informed the older gentleman that if he still wanted that specific component in the will, he would have to find someone else to go and do it for him. The older gentleman did just that. Years later, the same older gentleman returned to Woolman, informing him of the change in his family and stating his son had turned from his evil ways and he would like for Woolman to rewrite the will. The older gentleman explained to Woolman that the enslaved they had owned were youthful, and he did not think that they were capable of being adults or making it on their own independently. And he thought that the best thing to do, once again, was hand them down throughout his son, who has found a new correct way of life, leading the slaves once again to not ever having freedom. Woolman again denied the gentleman's proposal, resulting in the gentleman coming back a few days later with a change of mind, directing their freedom, and Woolman granted him the wish of his will. There was another situation to where Woolman was sent to bleed a man, a practice back then where blood was removed from the body called bloodletting, which is with a therapeutic practice back in the 1700s. This man asked Woolman to write his will. While the man is telling Woolman what he wanted in his will, and Woolman took notes, Woolman said that the man asked for his young slave to be given to one of his children. Woolman wrote everything in the will but that part. He read it to the man and explained why he did not write it in the will, resulting in the man agreeing to set her free, and he finalized the will. Woolman had a reputation for being persuasive and planned to deepen his beliefs, which was a big step back in his time. Woolman's beliefs caused others to step up against slavery as well. Not only strangers were being influenced, Woolman practiced his life and beliefs, but even fellow Quakers emancipated their slaves as well. Woolman was also a solid person that believed in equality. He would not wear clothing that were colored by slaves or take anything produced by slave labor. He made a difference in such an impact by just simply practicing treating others as you would want to be treated and influencing others to follow behind. Woolman spent a lot of his time traveling, advocating for slaves, resulting in meetings and even organizations being created for this specific cause. He paved the way for other abolitionists that came after his time, such as Harriet Beecher Stowe, Susan B. Anthony, Frederick Douglass, and Harriet Tubman. John Woolman passed away in 1772 after a battle with smallpox. He was buried in the Quaker burial grounds, which was obtained in 1667, and was the very first burial grounds for Quakers. Woolman's legacy lives on as he helped pave the road of African American history.